I'm Dr. Melanie Ohm, the Director of the Cultural Arts Coalition and adjunct faculty in Communication and Fine Arts at Chandler Gilbert Community College.
I'm Dr. Anjali Lafarie. I'm psychology faculty and also the faculty development coordinator here at Chandler Gilbert Community College.
This is our second training in the Human Rights Video Project, and I would like to thank the Ruth McCormick Tankersley Trust for providing major funding for the entire project.
This video will focus on the art of capturing video with both iPhones and Androids. All of the equipment and materials that you need, that information will be found online afterwards.
Our instructor today from Financial Potion is Taylor Wellman. Welcome, Taylor.
So we're going to be talking today about the art of video capturing with Android and iPhones. They are two different operating systems. They do act a little different. However, nowadays you can still capture some really high quality video using your phone. So let's get started. You're going to be doing a 30-second script related to human rights. And with this 30-second video, you're going to be able to share what's important to you and what you think needs to happen around the world of human rights. So to get started when you're creating a video, you always need to start with pre-production. I love pre-production. That is scripting. And so when you're scripting, it's going to make your production a lot faster, and it's going to make your editing a lot faster because you're going to be walking in there with the plan nice and organized. It's like an architect. Imagine if they didn't have blueprints. How in the world would they know how to create a house or create a building of any sort unless they had their blueprints? And so that's what this scripting session is going to be about, is creating that blueprint so you can have success creating that 30-second commercial. We keep saying 30-second script. How do you know when your video is truly going to be 30 seconds? If you're going to be having a lot of verbal wording within your script, we want to write a script that's going to be about 75 words. Now I say 75 words because everyone has a different speech pattern. I know, being from the East Coast, sometimes I talk a little fast, so I could probably get 75 words in 15 seconds if I needed to. However, on average, most people, 75 words is going to be about that 30-second time frame. When you're scripting, you want to stick to a certain format in order to stay nice and organized. As you can see here, you're first going to have the action of what's going to be seen explained. And so what that could be, it could be you see a person sitting at their desk, or you see someone in the, on the street kneeling over. Whatever that visual is, if there's going to be any text graphics on there, you'd also want to explain that in this section. Then next, in all caps, you're going to have the character name, a voiceover, or what sound. So you'd say music or Sally or voiceover Sally. So that way, as you're looking at this script, you know what's going to be heard, and below that full caps labeling is going to be the text of what is being heard. As you can see in this next slide, here's a full example of what the script could look like. A man and woman next to each other, both wearing an apron and packing boxes. Voiceover. Equal experience and equal work. Same scene continues with text graphic. Under man saying 15 an hour, under female says 13 an hour. Voiceover should mean equal pay. When you look at this script, you already have an idea of what shots you need to capture for your production, as well as what your plan is going to be when it comes to editing. Are there any scripting questions?
So the should mean equal pay, the voiceover, it's like an instruction of whatever we say, it should mean equal pay. Like that's the message you're trying to convey, as opposed to the exact words being used, correct?
So when you look at this example, the question is, should mean equal pay, is that what's being heard, or is that what should be implied? A little bit of both. We do want to imply that equal work should mean equal pay. However, the way that the scripting structure is presented, you're actually going to be hearing the voiceover say the words, should mean equal pay. Basic equipment that you're going to be needing, number one is always going to be the tripod. And this is the particular tripod that you're going to be using for this particular course. As you can see, tripod means 3 legs. You can tighten the 3 legs once you extend them out by tightening this dial to the right. In order to make this tripod taller, you're just going to simply unlock these clamps. And I always say start at the bottom. So go ahead and go to each bottom piece. Pull them down, and that way it can get taller. Now, what you're going to want to do is always get the tripod plate off. The tripod plate with this one, you can see that on the back here, there was a way to unlock it. So you just simply unlock, and then you would grab your plate and attach. This one does not say lens, which some tripods that you'll experience, it will actually say lens, but you know where the lens is for this one because of this little dot, this little circle right here. And so where you see the circle, that's where you want the lens pointing. So go ahead and use this clamp and tighten it up. It's kind of lucky that you don't need to have a quarter with you. This is a nice little plate that has this little piece right here so you can tighten it up. And then simply put back into place and tighten back down. So once again, for the plate to take off, you open and then it pops off. Then you stick it back in and it tightens back up. Some basic terms. One of the basic terms is doing what's called a pan. So doing a basic pan, what you would do is you would loosen this middle piece to the left, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, and then you'd be able to simply go from left to right. That is a pan, going left to right. Tighten her up once you're done. If you want to tilt, that's going up and down. Let's say the script said, we're going to tilt from the sky down to a person on the side of a sidewalk. You would then loosen lefty-loosey or going forward, and then you'd go up and down, and up and down. And you should just be able to use your finger. It shouldn't be anything that's forceful. So you want to make sure that it's, finger loose, that you can just go up and down. And then once again, have it go towards you to tighten and lock down. You can do it. It's very simple. They're a lot of fun to use, and they have nice grips here so you can hold on to it as you're moving about. Another piece of equipment that you might want to be using during your production is getting a wider or close-up angle. We have these pieces here that can attach onto your phone. So what you would simply do is unscrew your little lens and put it onto your adapter. Once again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You would then always take the lens cap off. That's an important thing to remember, is take your lens cap off. And as you can see then, there's a clamp. And so what you would do is you would clamp this piece over your particular lens of your phone or tablet. This is then going to give you a wider angle than what your phone naturally gives you. And so let's say you want to be able to show a full room. Then you would want to use this wider angle lens. Typically, a phone is going to have about a 35 to 50 millimeter kind of focal length versus having a 10 or 11 millimeter focal length like this is going to provide you. And so it's really nice to use these wider angle lenses on your phone. Whenever you're done using your lens, you want to make sure to put your lens cap back on. You want to keep these clean. And so whenever they're not in use, disassemble and put your caps back on. Before you use it, make sure that everything is nice and clean. Just as important it is to see you, we need to be able to hear you. That is extremely important. You're going to want to use a smaller carpeted room to create a more dense sound. And so if in your script you have a lot of voiceovers, you want to go into a small carpeted room in order to do the voiceover so you don't have those echoes. I have honestly used closets as a great place to do voiceover work. And you want to use an external microphone. Yes, all of our phones and all of our tablets have microphones attached to them. However, they're not going to be providing as much high quality sound as an external microphone would. And so that's where we suggest a wireless mic, because you're going to be able to freely walk about during your production versus being tied down to the length of your particular cord. And so this is the KimaFun wireless mic. There is a microphone and then there is a receiver. You always need to make sure that you have the horseshoe piece connected to the receiver. And as you can see, there's a microphone image and then there's a headphone image. This is for the microphone, and so you plug it in to the microphone side. There is an on-off switch, and you would then turn it on. Using your phone or tablet, you would want to then take your receiver and plug it in to the headphone jack. For anyone who has a newer iPhone, that means you need to find that adapter in order to then once again have a headphone jack. And so you need to have that little lightning bolt connection that connects to your charger that then gives you that 1/8" headphone jack. So that way you can plug it in. This is now pretty much set, although you'll notice there is a blue blinking light. It is trying to find the microphone. And so what you need to do is on your microphone, make sure you turn it on. Within this set, there's also a clip. You want to make sure that when you're putting your microphone on, that it's looking clean, that you're not just having it hang around, you're not just having a bunch of wires showing. And so what you would do is you would slide the clip on, and then you can use this clip to put on your pants, try to cover it with your shirt, and then you can simply put this underneath your shirt. You can hide it under collars. You want to try to do your best to hide the mic, so then that way it's not super obvious. The windscreen is optional. If you're going to be outside and if it is windy, yes, you absolutely want to use your windscreen. That's what it's called, a windscreen, in order to help have higher quality audio while recording in the wind. But if you're indoors, you don't necessarily need to use it. So if you're not going to be using it, hold on to it, put it in your pack. Once again, we like to use these wireless microphones because you're going to be able to freely walk about. Instead of being stuck and tethered with the line, you're going to be able to move about and have a little more creativity when it comes to your production. You want to hide your microphone, so then that way people aren't just getting distracted by seeing a large mic or seeing the wire in front of your shirt. You want to tuck it underneath your shirt, tuck it underneath a collar, or hide it amongst an area within your set. Whenever you know you're going to be having someone actually be mic'd up, what are they wearing? Are they wearing something that's going to be easy to mic up? Are they wearing something like a dress where it might be a little challenging? Think about what you want your people to wear on set in order to have an easy mic up. It's nice that these aren't battery operated. When not in use, you can actually then use a little USB in order to then recharge, and it does have a connection for both, so you can recharge the microphone and the receiver at the same time. In addition to being able to hear you, we need to be able to see you. Seeing is believing. You always want to light up the subject and never record into the light. The sun is a great light source. However, you want to make sure that your subject is being lit up by the sun and you're not recording into the sun. This may make it difficult sometimes with people wanting to squint their eyes, and so you want to make sure that at the end of the day you're accomplishing the shot that you're trying to get. You always want to try to shoot around noon or so when you're outside, because that's when the shadows are the shallowest. And so you're not going to be having these odd shadows appearing onto your screen and onto your production. You can even use a reflector when you're out to even out the light. A reflector can become very, very handy. So as you can see, it pops up, and there's several different sides to it. So this is a nice metallic side that you can then use in order to bump and bounce light. The black side, we've actually used a lot of times for shading. If you needed to then block light in order to have a more even look, you can use this side onto a subject to create more shading. You can see on your reflector that there is a zipper. You use the zipper in order to open it up and access the other colors and the other sides of your reflector. If you needed to diffuse light, that's still allowing some light to go through, that's when you use just the inside of this reflector. It allows it to make a softer light coming through. And like I said, on one side we had our metallic. On the other side here, when you flip it inside out, you have your gold. Gold, I feel, really looks pretty when you're using the sun and the outdoor lighting. And so if you want to bounce a little extra on their face, let's say you are filming at noon. Yes, there's shallow shadows. However, it's all downward light, and then sometimes you're just getting this little dark shadowing under the neck. What you'd want to do is you could use this in order to bounce a little bit of light underneath their face, so that way their full face has a nice glow. In order to put this back on nicely, what you'd want to do is find the hole and find the tab. That's always kind of my thing. Find the hole and find the tab. Then that way you can stick this around. It's not a fast job, but you get it done. And then you can pull that tab into the hole. Wrap everything else around it. Make sure everything's nice and tucked. This is where sometimes having people on team helps. And then slowly, you'll just start to zip everything up. Once again, a reflector can even be used indoors if you want to do some bouncing of light indoors as well. But really, I primarily use this when you're doing some outside recording. In order to get this collapsed and put it back in, you just sort of twist. Oh, and it collapses into itself. You will get better with that with practice, don't worry. When you're doing a selfie vlog-like video, you might want to use an LED light on your phone, or you can actually get cases that cover your entire phone with LED lights. Here's an example of one that you could use. As you can see, there's a clamp. You'd want to make sure that it's not covering your lens, that the lens is actually looking right through here. And then what that's going to do is it's just going to provide some light on your face. This is great because it's nice and light, and especially if you're planning on keeping your camera close to your face, it's going to illuminate your face very nicely while you're on the go. Let's say you want to have more of an interview shot. This is going to be then using 3-point lighting. Typically with 3-point lighting, let's say this particular chair is going to be our subject. You would then put one light about 45 degrees behind them. This is called your backlight. You would then take your strongest light, that is called your key light, and you would place it over here. Basically, it's going to be diagonal from your backlight. Let's say this particular chair is our camera. For your third and final light, when creating 3-point lighting, is then going to be having what's called a fill light. Here, once again, about 45 degrees. When you look at where the subject is, you have your camera in the middle, your key, your fill, and your back. That is traditional 3-point lighting. However, I tend to like to do what's called paramount lighting. With the paramount lighting, you're just adjusting one of the lights. What you're doing is you're taking your key light and you're pulling it to be right next to your camera. What this does is it actually makes the shadowing under your nose a lot shallower, so it gives you almost an appearance of a smaller nose. We talked about possibly doing some selfie vlog-like videos where you're then going to be having your light on your particular phone and you might want to be walking around. That is when you're going to want to use a gimbal. A gimbal is something that you can then use in order to put your phone on this device and walk around, and it will stay steady. A gimbal means that it's going to have a steady mechanism, so that way you don't see the bounce so much when you're walking around. If you're thinking about using the gimbal, here's a little more information to get you started. We're not going to be able to go through all the features, however, enough to be able to get you started and confident using this gimbal for your project. Before you even put your phone on the gimbal, you're going to want to go to your Google Play or App Store and download the ZY Play app. Here is a list of all the compatible devices. If you don't see your phone on this list, you may not be compatible. And even if you do see your phone on this list, some features may not work fully. However, you'll still be able to use this gimbal for a lot of your production needs. Before you even turn your gimbal on, you need to put your phone on the gimbal and make sure it's fully leveled. Carefully slip your phone into this device. Then push to your right away from your body to unlock. You want to make sure that your phone is centered in the middle of the motor. If you need to make any adjustments, there is an unlock screw behind the phone that you can simply unlock to be able to push out or push more in. Once you think you have found that level, go ahead and lock in that dial. Once you have your gimbal leveled, you can push it towards yourself to bring it back to that vertical mode, and then you're going to want to open the app. Once you have your phone leveled and the app downloaded, go ahead and turn on the app and then turn on the gimbal by pressing on the on button at the bottom of the gimbal, holding it for just a few seconds. You'll know when the gimbal is on by seeing the blue lights at the bottom. And this blue light here is going to indicate how much battery life you have. So that blue bar will go down as your battery life goes down. Once you have your gimbal on and the phone app open, it's time to pair the two devices. Click on Please Connect Device. This is when you're going to want to make sure you have your Bluetooth turned on, and then it will find the device and pair your two devices. You can once again now push the gimbal away from you in order to have it held horizontally, because we want to have our videos HD with that full 16:9 aspect ratio. This side wheel is going to help you with a lot of your production features. When you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that as you push this wheel towards you, that it's going to focus on things closer to you. You can also tell that by looking at the little flower image at the bottom. That means you're getting closer. And then if you want to focus on something further, you then are going to push it away from you and away from the general screen to then focus on something that's further away. You can also see that from the mountain image. Whenever you want to use this wheel for a different feature, you can click on this target button. Now we're going to be able to use this same wheel in order to zoom out or to zoom in. And you can see how much you're zooming in and out by looking on the right-hand side of this screen. When you want to flip the video from looking out to then looking at yourself, like a selfie mode, you can then click on the left-hand side of this dial in the middle of the gimbal. To access your other settings, go to the upper left button that says Menu. It'll pop up your menu options, and then you can use the middle wheel in order to scroll to the various options. Once you see an area that you want to adjust, go ahead and click on the middle Thunderbolt button. You'll then be able to switch to your other options. For example, under Scene, you can see that there is motion and walking. If you're going to be running, that would be considered a motion. So you'd want to click on motion by once again pressing on that Thunderbolt. To get out of your menu, click Menu. Here's a quick review of the various buttons on this device. When you click up, it's going to bring up your video resolution options. This particular phone can record in 4K, and that's why you'll see 4K as options for recording. However, if you know you're going to be using other footage that's 1080, you can switch to the left to select 1080 30 frames or 1080 60 frames. 60 frames is going to give you a little smoother motion whenever there is a lot of motion versus your typical 30 frames. To get out of your resolutions, click Menu twice. When you click down, it's your playback, so you'll be able to see anything that you've already recorded. Once again, click Menu twice to get out of that. When you click to the right of the dial, it's going to bring up your exposure compensation. You can scroll then in order to bring up your exposure, or scroll down to bring down the exposure. You want to make sure that you're not blowing out your image and you're finding that perfect exposure you need for your shot. When you're ready to take a picture, click on the camera button. When you're ready to take video, click on the red record button. You'll then see at the top of your screen your video recording and for how long it's recording. And then press the red record button to stop recording. This switch up PF is pan follow. So as you pan, which is going left to right, it's going to follow. However, if you tilt up and down, it's going to lock in that position. On the back, there are two different buttons. When you click on the top one, that is going to allow you to do quick whips, that as you move that camera about, it's going to quickly whip and follow where you're looking. If you press on the bottom button twice, it will reset your camera. If you hold the bottom button down, it's a full follow. So it'll follow you looking down, looking up and tilting up, going to the left and going to the right. The switch down for L is lock, and that means you're not going to be able to pan or tilt. It's going to be locked on that particular spot. However, although it's locked, if you use the back buttons, it's still going to work the same as it did with the pan follow. You obviously want to make sure your device is staying well and charged, and so on the side is an area to plug in a USB that you can plug into your computer or to a battery pack. If you wish to use this camera as a stationary tripod, you can then connect the tripod stand that came with the device by going to the bottom and screwing it on. Once it's securely on, you can extend the legs and then you can place it onto a desktop. Once again, there's a lot of other features that this gimbal can do that you can go ahead and have fun with. However, this should be able to get you started with doing some great motion videos using this gimbal. Some other production best practices. You want to stay organized. You want to use a slate or at least a piece of paper to make notes. And so that way you know what scenes are good and what takes are good. So for example, you could write on there, intro scene 1. And on your script, you know that scene 1 is going to be a tilt from the sky looking down to someone sitting on the side of a sidewalk. You maybe did that a few takes. Maybe we're on take 5. And finally, take 5 was our winner. Whenever you're using a slate, you put this in front of your camera for that first frame. You would then say, scene 1, take 5. You can clap it if you want, although you don't necessarily always have to if you already have the microphone connected to your camera. The reason why in film sets they actually do the clap is so that way in post-production they can sync up the audio. You're not going to be needing to sync up the audio, so it's not necessarily needed to do the actual clap, but feel free to do it if you want to. Really, the key of this is to make sure that you're staying organized. So that way, at the end of take 5, if you know that's the winner, you can then make a note on your piece of paper that it was scene 1, take 5, the one that you want to use. This way, when you're editing, you can look at the first frame of all your takes and find take 5 a lot faster and know that's the one that you want to click and drag into your timeline to use for your edit. Using a slate or at least a piece of paper, in addition to taking the right notes of what take is the best, is going to help you have a more successful production and, once again, a faster edit. You want to make sure that you have space on your phone. You're going to be using your phones and your tablets in order to do your productions. You want to make sure that you have room on there to do recordings. And if you don't, make sure you transfer some of your files, some of your videos and photos you already have on there onto a cloud storage like Google Drive or Dropbox. That way you don't have to delete anything. However, at least it'll be off your phone. You can delete it from your phone's memory space and you'll have space in order to actually record your videos. You also, in addition to that, want to make sure that you have a fully charged phone or tablet, or you want to make sure that you have an external memory bank or power bank in order to have your phone be charged while you're using it. The last thing you want to do is you want to be recording and then all of a sudden your phone dies. So make sure that it's fully charged, or if you're unsure how long the charge will last, that you have it connected to a power bank. You always want to make sure that whether you're using your phone or tablet on a tripod or on a gimbal, that you're using it horizontally. You want to make sure that the lens is positioned horizontally, so that way you're getting the full 16:9 aspect ratio. That's going to give you the full HD size of your recording. Whenever you record vertically, what that's going to do is it's going to give you those black lines on the sides. It's going to be making it so you're not utilizing the full space. And so make sure that you have your phone or your tablet held horizontally in order to get that full image. In order to make sure things are in focus and you're getting the right exposure, you want to make sure that you tap on the screen before you record. So let's say in the middle of this screen we had our subject, you tap on it, make sure your subject's fully in focus and fully exposed, and then you can go ahead and click record. What that's going to do is, like I said, make sure everything is in focus. You want to do that before you're recording. So if you're planning on panning or tilting or moving with your camera at all during the production, you're going to want to make sure that you're moving slower than what feels natural. And so what you would do, like I said, is you would pan, that's left to right, tilting up, down, or just moving with your gimbal. Move a little slower than what feels natural, so then that way when you look at your editing and you put the production all together, you're going to see it does look a lot smoother and not so jittery. Once your video is captured, you want to make sure that you send it to a cloud storage like the Google Drive or Dropbox. Have a folder dedicated to this project, then delete it from your phone, so then that way you have space. You can easily find the equipment suggestions that we have on this course by going to our website at financialpotion.com/equipment, and then you'll see that everything is organized by startup, professional, and cords and accessories. So a lot of the things that we showed you throughout this course has been in the startup and cords and accessories section. However, if you're looking to step up your game even more in terms of doing video, by all means, take a look at the professional section as well. You're going to have so much fun doing this 30-second commercial for human rights. Once again, just make sure that you have a script ready, then use the production best practices with the equipment you have on hand, and just relax and have a great time.